All right, folks, welcome on into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. Carl, another season has come and gone. The winter is in the rearview mirror, even though, outside, winter is still very much here. Spring sports are starting tomorrow. We got some lacrosse games if they actually decide to hold up, but we made it to the end of the road. The winter sports season is over, and what a season it was.
Quick disclaimer for all those who are watching the video portion of this. If I'm looking everywhere but the screen, it's because it's March Madness time and we're recording this during the early window of the games. So don't mind me. I'm like y'all, human, just like y'all sports fans. And if I just want, like y'all at work right now, probably, watching something else that y'all not supposed to be doing. That's what I'm doing right now in terms of the March Madness. So let me put that out the window. Now, in terms of the high school sports season, if it always flies by, especially the winter portion of it, I swear it does, because football comes, fall ends, and then boom, we really don't pick up round ball roundup until after the new year, and that's halfway through the season almost. So the fact that it flew by kind of makes sense. But it was another fun season. I mean, hockey was dope. Some cool stuff that happened in bowling that you'll discuss later. And then obviously the hardwood is always fun. So yeah, it was a memorable season that I'll remember for a long time.
Yeah, not as much team success as we've had in past winters and past seasons. We had some individual state champions, but I believe there were no team champions coming from Section 5 in any sports, basketball, hockey, bowling, none of the above, I believe, won state championships as a team, as a group, but still some quite impressive performances that we're going to talk about. But we'll start talking about an impressive performance by one Mr. Carl Jones, the long-awaited result of our high school huddle primetime 5A5, our sectional basketball preview draft. We had a lot of fun with it. And Carl was our champion based on what I think turned out to be the fifth tiebreaker, which was our pickings of the crossover games. The Dundee-Bradford-Bloomfield game got it done for Carl. So, Carl, your squad of Avon boys, Fairport boys, Aquinas girls, and East boys ended up winning you the championship. We'll give you the floor for a little congratulations speech there.
I'm not surprised. So I'm not about to get up here and be like, oh my gosh, I just want to thank God and all. I put the work in, walked up on the set, didn't know who I was going to pick number one. I said, you know what? We're going to rock with the Little Irish. And they got the job done for me. But I just wanted to take this time out to give a shout out to everyone who gave support to the draft. It was kind of dope, being at a gym and then hearing someone say, yeah, I got you. We're going to help you win. Or someone else I'm going to make you regret not picking me, things of that nature. I remember it all. Don't worry. I put names to faces to schools. I'll remember you next year. If I'm thinking about taking your school, nah, you dissed me last year. I'm not going to worry about you this year. Or vice versa. You made me eat crow and I'll think about picking you in my draft. It was dope. Everything about it, man. It didn't matter where we were at. If I was at Finger Lakes, inner city school, suburban, everyone showed love. And that was the most fun part of it all.
Now, that was a lot of fun. I haven't looked at the numbers yet exactly, but easily one of our most popular episodes, maybe ever. So thanks for Karen Gerard for coming on the show back then to do that with us. We had a lot of fun time, and we're glad that everybody enjoyed it. I will gladly, pass over the crown. I can say that I tied for first place. So, still had an impressive showing. The Iglesias coming up short there. Gerard came in third. Karen came in last place. So congratulations, Carl, once again. Wrapping up our winter sports season, we're going to get into a little bit some of our favorite memories from the season. However, first, we got some games to talk about. Boys basketball, girls basketball, the championships in Troy and Glens Falls. We'll start on the boys' side of things. All in all, a tough go at the state tournaments. Lions Falls in the Far West Regional, the state semifinals. Avoca Prattsburgh, their quest for a third straight state title comes up short in the state semifinals as well. And Wayne, they make it to the championship game, their first ever trip to the state championship game. They came short to Glens Falls, a tough situation. They're playing in Glens Falls against Glens Falls. The lines were crazy there. We were literally wrapped around, streets to get into there. Everybody trying to scan their tickets. So a really fun atmosphere for a boys basketball game, a high school basketball game. They come up short 50-37 to Glens Falls in that championship game. Gave up an 18-1 run to close the third quarter. It was a really slow, low-scoring affair. A lot of defense being played in that one. But, they've set themselves up well for the future. Cam Blankenberg, just a sophomore this year, and he came into his own on this playoff run. In their semifinal game where they beat Friends Academy, he had 30 points, 26 in the second half. So Blankenberg, obviously we're well familiar with the Blankenbergs. We were well familiar with Cam's game, but we finally got to see it in person on this playoff run, and he really wowed down the stretch.
Yeah, you had a first row ticket to all of his games down here in the postseason. He was doing his thing, and then the fact that we talked about it early on in the season, like, man, Wayne got another Blankenberg. Like that's a team I have to look out for. And lo and behold, they went all the way and almost raised a championship brick at the end. So great year for them. I know that if you told them back when sectional play started that they would make it this far, they would have called this season a success 10 times out of 10. So the Eagles, great year. Nothing to hold your keep your heads held high.
Looks like we got some people coming in and out of the sports office. I'm at the office, so this happens. We're a bustling newsroom. So if you're watching on our video, no need to fear. We're just doing some work here because this is where we work. But switching over to the girls' side of things, Aquinas comes up short in the state semifinals. Same thing with Elba. Hilton make it all the way to state championship thanks to what we kind of called the game of the year. They take down Averill Park 73-71 in overtime. The Class AA state semifinals. Elena Graziano, game-winning three-pointer in overtime. We were both watching this on the stream, and boy, what a thrilling game.
I mean, AP, number one team in the state, undefeated. Could Hilton do it? And back and forth. I can't remember like the exact sequence down the stretch, but they were clawing back and forth. Hilton had a little bit of a lead, and AP said, no, don't go nowhere, not so fast. And then that three-pointer, you figure that Mallory Heiss was going to get the rock, and she was going to make a play to either win, like they're going to put the ball in her hands. You figure she's going to shoot it. But the fact that she kicked it out, man, says a lot about her and her maturity as a player. But forget all that. Elena Graziano, you're a superstar for that. You'll never forget that shot. That was dope to see.
Yeah, that game had, lead changes back and forth in the fourth quarter. And then the only time it was tied is when it was tied at the end of regulation going to overtime. Overtime was great. Shout out to the Cadets for making it a state title game. In that state championship game, it's very possible that dramatic, thrilling, emotional game just took a lot out of them. They got out to a really slow start. They played against a really good Albertus Magnus team. They were down 23-9 heading into the second quarter after the first. And after that point, it was basically an even game. Hilton got it to within 10 a handful of times. They got it to 9 midway through the fourth quarter, but just that deficit was too much to overcome. Albertus Magnus just had studs on studs. They had height, they had shooting, they had defense. Hilton basically had to play a perfect game to stay with them. And, that slow start just sunk them in. But a great performance by the Hilton Cadets all throughout the season, making it all the way to the state championship game. And, of course, this weekend, the private public school debate got reignited all throughout with AAA, AA, A, and Class B girls all won by private schools. Hilton coming on the short end of that stick there, but a great season for Mallory Heiss. Ella Clark had a great game as well, 18 points, her final game as a high school athlete. So a tremendous season for the Cadets, going for their first ever state title.
Great season. Great season. And speaking about the Cadets, Section 5, y'all got to deal with Mallory Heiss once again next year. Ella Clark is unfortunately moving on. They'll have to figure out how to replace her, but they won't have to do it without Mallory Heiss. Y'all going to have to figure out how to stop her again next year, along with a litany of other great players from Section 5 this year that did their thing. Fun year. Hilton did their thing. And we're blessed enough that we get to see her again do her thing once again in 2025.
Yeah, Hilton's going to lose a lot of that height, so Hilton's going to have some fun games. They might be going 5 guards out throughout, just running the heck out of them. That'll be a fun thing to watch next year. But before we look ahead to next year, it's time to take a look back at some of our favorite memories and moments of the high school sports season. As we did in the fall, we have our News 8 Primetime 585 Elite Awards. So we're going to be handing out awards for every single sport, small schools, large schools, boys, girls. Going to be a great night, a busy night. We're currently figuring out how to cram this all into one show. We got so much to talk about. So we're not going to get into individual performances and whatnot. But Carl, why don't you just start us off with one of the main takeaways you're going to have when you think back on this winter sports season in 2023-24?
My first sectional final day for hockey, that wasn't at Brockport. No disrespect to Brockport. You guys have a fantastic facility and you can accommodate sectional finals. But for me personally, in terms of shooting the game, I could not wait to be somewhere else. It just wasn't conducive for what I was doing. Let me put that out the way. Brockport, great facility. What I'm doing, don't care. RIT, on the other hand, we there. Loved everything about it. The setup was great. Hospitality was good. All that good type of stuff. And then the games themselves were lit. The first one, Batavia-Notre Dame taking down Thomas and OT. My boy Joe DeRizio, living every high school kid's dream. OT winner to win a championship. BND United's first sectional title as a combined school, and you can kind of feel that emotion when the game ended. Like everyone was just elated the fact that they were able to get that done. And they talk so much about community, which was so cool to see. And I really appreciate that, seeing that up close and personal. And then McQuaid, on the other end, a really proud, long history of hockey success, but of late hasn't really been able to get over the hump in terms of raising a brick. They finally did it this year, first time since 2015. And then but it was the freshmen who got it done. It wasn't like they had a bunch of seniors doing it. My boy Chase Brock, 2 goals in the third period. I'm gonna give him a hat trick because the fans thought he got a hat trick and they threw hats on the ice. So he gonna tell his kids he had a hat trick in the sectional final.
He's gonna tell his kid he had 4 goals in the sectional final.
For real, like at this point, like might as well. I got the footage for you, my boy. I got footage of you scoring and hats on the ice. Ain't no stats next to that, so that's all for that. But McQuaid getting that done, seeing a freshman do it, and then after the game, interviewing the coach, ice bath. Almost got me. Kids, I was gonna be mad at you if you got me, because then now I'm wet, and then if the camera wet, y'all's gonna have to talking to Thad Brown and the rest of the News 8 staff, because I'm not getting in trouble for that, okay? But long story short, fun game to be at RIT. The games were really good. Portside, good team, fell short to McQuaid, and the same for Thomas. But I will remember that because first year I'm away from Brockport, and also 2 really good games for sure.
Yeah, the high school hockey season, really a fun one throughout. We had some new teams at the top. Obviously, Pittsford was good. Thomas has been good in the past, but McQuaid rising up the charts, Batavia, Notre Dame, they've been, scoring a billion goals, but they haven't quite won at that level. They come out on top. Portside had a fun season, of course. Hilton and Canandaigua had some great goaltending performances. So just a really, really exciting, entertaining hockey season all around. I'm going to go with another sectional championships to take away. It had been 4 years since I had been at Blue Cross Arena for a sectional championship Friday and Saturday. First time I did it was my first year here at Channel 8. Then, of course, COVID happens. 2021, we were at neutral sites. We were at home gyms. 2022, they put it at Gates Child Life for the championship games. Last year, they were back at Blue Cross, but, Carl got the fun side of that stick. I was back at Blue Cross Arena, and just fun games all throughout. We didn't have exactly the last second buzzer beater, the thrilling shot with 10 seconds to go, but really just intense, good games, fan support all throughout. The final 2 games of the evening, Wayne withstanding a fervent charge from East to win that sectional championship game. A really fun game, really fun crowd. Then, of course, the AA championship game. It's Athena's time. It's the Reeves brothers. It's this, it's that. They're undefeated. They're this unstoppable force. Victor shows up and say, hey, we're the defending state champs for a reason. So just a really fun game of day of action. We got to cover every single championship game. We got to put it on you for Round Ball Roundup. So just an exciting, game. I know that, every kid plays boys basketball here in Section 5, dreams of playing in the big house. It's fun to shoot it as well. So that was just a really fun day.
Yeah, because we're there all day. Everything about it. And you get to see teams come and go, different types of demographics in the crowd, different players on the court, all the good type of stuff. But the energy is the same. Everyone knowing what's at stake here. And like you alluded to, which is a good point, every kid that grew up here wants to play there one day. So they're going to make sure they go all out. The student sections, they got all the crazy chants. Even though they're a bit further back than usual, which I'm sure they will love to be a little bit closer, they still making their energy felt. I was there Friday night to see Avon, and their student section was amazing. I was on the other side, unfortunately. But, yeah, everything about the big house is lit. I know the games weren't necessarily like, oh, my gosh, game winner, run down the court, trample the kid. But nonetheless, some good storylines that came out of sectional championship Saturday there for sure.
Yeah, you can tell how much kids want to show up on the at the big house. There were more missed dunks than I've ever seen in a certain stretch of game, because anybody who even had a fraction to attempt to dunk, fast break transition, they try and go up and make that building explode. We had some ones actually execute, but everybody's trying to show at the big house. So a fun day of basketball indeed. Carl, what else you got for us?
Man, I'm just go with the ladies over in Class AA. We talked about it all year on this podcast. Y'all probably fed up, like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Carl, we get it. They good.
Well, but he's gonna do it again.
I'm gonna do it again. Too bad. Whatever. They deserve it. Okay. Obviously, Hilton came out on top in terms of that AA bracket, but that game kind of was a good summary of that bracket the whole year. The game wasn't pretty. Like, it was 36-33. That is, by all standards, not a beautiful game to watch. Okay, there were a lot of missed shots in that game, but the intensity and everyone that was in that gymnasium, you could feel everything that was going on the floor. I'm talking about players diving on the floor, players talking some trash, some of it PG, some of it I couldn't put a camera to. Okay, some of the refs had to get in between players and stop players at times, but nothing was malicious. It was all competitive hoops. And both teams wanted to win, and you can tell that there was really high-level players on both sides out there. Victor, we've talked about all year, may not have, outside of Ryland Fehrenbach, a Division I quote-unquote hooper, but they got a whole bunch of Division I lacrosse players in other sports who are going to be at the next level in other sports someday. And you could tell Devin Livingston diving on the floor, not letting anything. She picking up 90 feet. I'm like, girl, I know you're tired. I'm tired of watching you. And then on the other hand, Hilton, obviously Mallory Heiss is a good player. Ella Clark, Leah Thompson, Elena Graziano, they're all making things shake. And you can really feel it like, man, I really feel bad for whoever loses this game, because they left it all out there. And that was a good summary of the entire AA season, whether it was Schrader, Bishop Kearney, Penfield, I believe Minden was in that classification as well. None of those teams wanted to come up short. Hilton got it done. And that game, like I said 2 times before, good summary of the whole season.
And it's worth mentioning, we talk about it so much, we do have to give a little asterisk on the AA season. Man, it would have been fun to see Mariah Watkins play with that Schrader team again, running it back. All those teams were so close, so competitive, and you had Schrader with a D1 player, sitting on the bench, torn ACL, crutches, whatever. So, thankfully, Schrader, they got their state championship last year. She was able to lead them to glory. So, she has that moment, but it would have been really fun to see her play this season as well.
Really fun. We were all looking forward to seeing, like, man, Schrader gets to run the entire team back. Oh my gosh. And then when we found out the news the week before the season, we're like, man, that's rough to hear, but she seems to be in high spirits. The team went as far as they could. I mean, they took Victor to the wire once again. But yeah, man, the whole year for girls hoops, especially AA, was fun to watch.
And then my last thing I want to touch on, we talk a lot about basketball, we talk a lot about hockey, but I'm going to talk a little bit of bowling here. I love going to sectionals on bowling. It's a really fun time. It's kind of, swimming is another one where you don't really think about it so much as like intensity, fans, like, excitement, energy. It's bowling. Like, you do it at a birthday party. You play at your league, and you have a good time. You have a couple adult beverages. But the sectionals at bowling, it is packed. It is crowded. You've got fans. You've got parents. You've got cheers. All of that nature. And I got to see something special at sectional bowling, which I had never seen before. Mr. Toby Prescott from Victor rolling a 300. Got to watch it up close in person. I was there for his last 5 strikes. A really fun atmosphere, a really fun game. Nathan Chafee also got a 300 from Fairport earlier in the day. We had some great bowlers all throughout the section. Keaton Ostrowski from Rush Henrietta had one of, if not the highest, averages in all of New York State history, I believe. He was the individual champion at the composites champion. at the state tournament in Syracuse. And then a story that I was able to share on News 8 just yesterday. We talked about it, I think, before during sectionals or Section 5 best. Emma Monagle, a Midlakes bowler. She's a sophomore. You know, she just started bowling 4 years ago. They started a team when COVID hit because, you know, all the other sports weren't, you know, going on. So they're, let's start a bowling team. So she is just in her infant stage of her bowling career. 2022. She's diagnosed with cancer, leukemia. So she's battling through that. She's, you know, going to some bowling matches last year. And then this year at sectionals, she's able to play the entire season. And then she rolls the game of her life at 268, more than 40 pins more than her previous best. Just, you know, hard work, determination, a little lightning in the bottle there. So I got a chance to talk to her. You can find that story on rochesterfirst.com. A really fun season and sectionals just for bowling all around. And I was glad to be a large part of it there.
Yeah, I went to one bowling sectional last year, and you're not lying. The energy is different. Like, you can't really walk around. Like, you got this big camera walking around where you're like, excuse me. I done said excuse me about 50 times today already. I don't want to say it again, man, but I really got to get over there. So I can completely relate to that. But on Emma, though, that story, I watched it. It was a great story. Shout out to AJ for that. And also shout out to Emma for just battling what she's going through. I can't imagine it. And getting in front of a camera, telling her story, showing the pictures, the behind the scenes of everything that she's going through. Took a lot of courage to do so. And it still I still can't comprehend how you're able to do both. I truly, like, I complain. Y'all listen to me all the time about the smallest stuff. And that doesn't even compare to what she's going through. And then having that game, rolling that game, in a situation where she needed it and her team needed it. So cool to see. She's set up forever just based off of the courage and the determination that she's built at such a young age.
Yeah, I mean, last year at sectional, she was talking about just bowling 6 games. You know, she was getting fatigued, you know, certain games throughout the year. Her coach, who is also her father, was saying, you know, certain girls, certain players, you know, I see someone start to fall off like that. You probably sub them out, but there wasn't any taking her out of any of those games, any of those matches. So congratulations to her. You know, once again, thanks to Emma for letting me share that story. It was a really fun one to kind of cap off the winter sports season, our coverage here on Channel 8. Well, that'll close the books on the winter sports season for our coverage here on the High School Huddle. Like I mentioned, in a couple of weeks now, we're going to have our News 8 Primetime 585 Elite Awards, currently scheduled for Tuesday, April 16th. So you can catch that on News 8, rochesterfirst.com. We'll probably also share it on our High School Huddle podcast as well. As for this show, we're going to take next week off. Who knows if we'll be back 2 weeks from now? If, you know, the snow stays around, we don't have much to talk about. So that'll be kind of a thing with the spring sports season. We want to make sure that we have quality things to talk about. So we might go to a little bit less of our weekly schedule. We'll kind of see how the flow goes. But of course, we'll ramp it up, you know, sectional time once things get really good. So that'll do it for us today on the High School Huddle. Once again, thanks for watching and listening all winter sports season long. For the future, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rochesterfirst.com, YouTube. For Carl Jones, who did a great job of not being distracted too much by his TV today, I'm AJ Feldman. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.